Hello there, and welcome to a Sunday Vespers hymn sing brought to you by Second Presbyterian Church in Portsmouth, Ohio. I'm Dr. Stanley Workman Jr., Director of Music at Second Pres, and I'm here with my good friend and colleague, Justin Wiggett, Director of Music at All Saints Episcopal Church. We are celebrating the post-Christmas season of Epiphany today with hymns that deal particularly with the visit of the Magi to the Christ child, as guided by the wondrous star of Bethlehem, and thus Jesus' physical manifestation to the Gentiles. The first hymn today, Once in Royal David City, is not an Epiphany hymn per se, but one that encompasses the birth to his reign in heaven. This is the famous hymn that opens the traditional Festival of Nine Lessons and Carols from King's College, Cambridge. The author of this text, Cecil Frances Alexander, was born in Dublin in 1818 and began writing in verse from an early age. She became so adept that by the age of 22, several of her hymn texts made it into the hymn book of the Church of Ireland. Aside from her prolific hymn writing, which included hymns such as All Things Bright and Beautiful and Jesus Calls Us, Mrs. Alexander gave much of her life to charitable work and social causes, something rare for women of her day. The famous hymn tune associated with this text, Irby, was composed by English composer and organist Henry J. Gauntlet, who was born in 1805. He was an important figure in the history of British pipe organs. Gauntlet is said to have composed some 10,000 hymn tunes, most of which have been forgotten today.
Once in royal David city stood a lowly cattle shed, where a mother laid her baby in a manger for his bed. Mary was that mother mild, Jesus Christ, her little child. He came down to earth from heaven, who is God and Lord of all, and his shelter was a stable, and his cradle was a star.
Our next hymn is the first Noel. It is an English carol in ballad style of Cornish origin. The carol bloomed at a time when the medieval civilization of Europe was experiencing a proto-Renaissance of sorts between the 13th and 14th centuries. The story portrayed in the carol was inspired by the dramatizations of miracle plays, famous Bible stories of that time. It portrays the story of Noel, or Jesus is Born, depicting the night of his birth in Bethlehem. The medieval poetry of that time was predominantly crafted to be sung, so it is widely deduced that the tune of the first Noel is older and is presumably French or English in origin.
The first Noel, the angel did say, was to certain poor shepherds in fields as they lay, in fields as they lay, keep
As with Gladness Men of Old is an Epiphany hymn written by William Chatterton Deeks on Epiphany, January 6, 1859, while he was bedridden with illness. It is found in the Epiphany sections of many hymnals and still used today by many churches. The music was adapted by William Henry Monk in 1861 from a tune written by Conrad Koscher in 1838. The hymn recounts the visit of the Magi to the birth of Jesus. This tune is often sung to the text of the hymn, For the Beauty of the Earth.
As with gladness men of old did the guiding star behold, as with joy they hailed its light, leading onward, beaming bright. So most gracious Lord, may we evermore be led to as with joyful steps they sped to that lowly manger bed, there to bend the knee before him whom heaven and earth adore. So may we with willing feet ever seek the mercy seat. As they offered gifts most rare at that manger rude and bare, so may we with holy joy, pure and free from sins alloy, all our costliest treasures bring, Christ to thee, our heavenly King.
Our next hymn is What Star Is This?, which brings us back in touch with the team of author Charles Coffin and translator John Chandler, who also composed On Jordan's Banks the Baptist Cry and The Advent of Our King, both featured in the past two installments of a Sunday Vespers hymn sing. Coffin wrote this text in Latin for the Paris Breviary, the book for liturgical rites, which was published in 1736. In 1837, it was translated into English by John Chandler.
What star is this with beams so bright, more beauteous than the noonday light? It shines to herald forth the King, and Gentiles to his crib to bring. True spake the prophet from afar, who told us rise of Jacob's star, and eastern sages with amaze upon the wondrous token gaze. The guiding star above is bright, within them shines a clearer light, and leads them on with power benign to seek the giver of the sign. O Jesus, while the star of grace impels us on to seek thy face, let not our slothful hearts refuse the guidance of thy light to use.
Now we come to one of the most famous Epiphany hymns, We Three Kings. John Henry Hopkins wrote this Epiphany carol in 1857 and first published it in his own Carols, Hymns, and Songs in 1863. There are 5 stanzas and a refrain. The first stanza describes the journey of the Magi following the star. The next 3 stanzas elaborate on the significance of each gift, and the final stanza summarizes the song. Hopkins wrote the tune Kings of Orient for his text, with which it was first published.
We 3 kings of Orient are, bearing gifts we traverse afar, field and fountain, moor and mountain, following yonder star. Oh, star of wonder, star of night, star with royal beauty bright, westward leading, still proceeding, guide us to thy perfect light. Born a king on Bethlehem's plain, God I bring to crown him again, King forever, ceasing never, over us all to reign. Frankincense to offer have I, incense alms a deity nigh, prayer and praising, all men raising, worship him God on high. Mary's mine is bitter perfume, breathes the life of gathering noon, sorrowing, sighing, bleeding, dying, sealed in a stone cold tomb. Glorious now, behold him arise, King and God at the sacrifice. Heaven sings Alleluia, Alleluia, earth replies. Oh, star of wonder, star of night, star with royal beauty bright, westward leading, still proceeding, guide us to thy perfect light.
Our next hymn is Brightest and Best of the Stars of the Morning. This hymn was written in 1811 by the Anglican bishop Reginald Heber, who was born in 1873. It was written to be sung at the Feast of Epiphany. It has been sung to several different hymn tunes. The tune we hear today was composed by London organist and choir master James Harding, who was born in 1850.
Brightest and best of the stars of the morning, dawn on our darkness and lend us thine aid. Star of the east, the horizon adorning, guide where our infant Redeemer is laid. Cold on his cradle the dewdrops are shining, Shall we then yield him in costly devotion, odors of Edom and offerings divine, gems of the mountain and pearls of the ocean, myrrh from the forest and gold from the mine. Vainly we offer each ample oblation, vainly with gifts would his favor secure. Richer by far is the heart's adoration, dearer to God are the prayers of the poor. Brightest and best are the stars of the morning, dawn on our darkness and lend us thine aid. Star of the east, the horizon adorning, guide where our infant Redeemer is laid.
All Beautiful the March of Days was written by Mrs. Frances Whitmarsh Weil, who was born in New York in 1878. Her lovely hymn, All Beautiful the March of Days, was written about 1907. It is a hymn full of wonderful images of winter, the passing of time into the new year, with the sounds of Christmas echoing in our ears. The hymn tune Forest Green is an English folk tune associated with the ballad The Plowboy's Dream. Ralph Vaughan Williams turned Forest Green into a hymn tune for the English hymnal, which was published in 1906.
Beautiful the march of days as seasons come and go. The hand that shaped the rose hath wrought the crystal of the
close today's hymn sing with the song, "A Star Was His Candle," which is not a hymn, but a Christmas song composed by English musician Teresa del Riego. She was born in London, England, and studied music at the Convent of the Sacred Heart and the West Central College of Music in London. There she studied with the famous Italian composer Francesco Paolo Tosti. The words were written by Florence Hare, an English artist and poet who was born in 1903. Please consider this song as a belated Christmas greeting.
A star was his candle, a straw was his bed. On Mary's soft bosom he pillowed his head. Sing Noel, for even as then, in love and in glory, he dwells among men. The high and the lowly, the shepherd and seer, that first Christmas carol delighted to hear. Sing Noel, for even as then, the song of the Christ child, it is for all men. And still to that manger by faith we go in. There's no room for hatred, there's no room for sin. Sing Noel, for even as then, to each Christmas greeting, the stars sing, Amen. To each Christmas greeting, the stars sing, Amen.
Thanks for tuning in to another Vespers Hymn Sing service sponsored by Second Presbyterian Church. We hope you enjoyed our service today, and if you have requests of hymns that you would like to hear, or if you would like to sponsor one of these radio broadcasts, please contact the church at 740-353-4159. That's 740-353-4159. Again, thanks for listening, and we'll see you back here at 6 o'clock on WIOI.